thank you all for joining us. I did get the recording kicked off, so that's good news. We are excited today to take our conversation from last month to the next level. So today we're going to be talking about maximizing efficiency using Microsoft Copilot. We want this to be really hands-on. We want this to be things that you can take away with you. So we are going to be talking about what does it look like integrating Microsoft Copilot with Word and PowerPoint? What does it look like with the Teams? What about my email? And then we're going to give you some time to ask questions at the end. We do want to give some best practices. So we've been having some conversations. Everybody always asks us, are there policies about AI? What do you have? No, we don't have policies, but we do have some best practices to share this time. So in our best practices, we do want to let you know that we're recording. We're using Microsoft Teams, so this will be recorded, and the recordings will live in our AI resource page, as they always do. But we do ask that you not use third-party AI meeting assistants like Otter AI, those types of things, because we can't guarantee privacy of the content with those, and it's really important for us to be good stewards of our privacy. So we do ask that we don't use third-party AI assistants, but know that we are recording for you, and we will give access to recording. And as always, you hear us say it every month, but we are always going to say it again. Do not put that personal identifiable information, that PII, for yourself or your students into any AI ever. It's just a good best practice not to include that PII when you're using AI. So, as I mentioned, this conversation today is an extension of the conversation we had last month regarding Copilot. And wanted to recap just a little bit because I know that not everybody was able to attend last month. Maybe some of you haven't been able to watch the recording. So just as a reminder, Copilot is an embedded tool with a Microsoft product. It's not considered a third-party tool. It's embedded within Microsoft. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about Copilot Pro. So last month when we were talking, we were demonstrating in this space up here. We were demonstrating in the in-browser Copilot. How do we effectively use that? What could it be used for? We were demonstrating the screenshot, which is one of my favorite tools, is a screenshot technology where you can take a screenshot and ask it to do things. We talked a little bit about the fact that Bing Chat is now actually the same thing as Copilot in the browser, in-browser Copilot. But we also talked about the fact that Copilot's sort of this bigger word for a lot of different various functions, and there's actually different types of Copilot. So we're trying to be really cognizant of sharing which one we're working with. Today, we're going to be talking mostly about the embedded tools with Copilot Pro. So as we were talking last month, we started getting many questions about, well, what is, if this is the free version, what does Copilot Pro look like? What does it look like to use this within our Microsoft? What does it look like when it's embedded in our tools? And we asked you to give us just a little bit of time, and we would come back to you with that. So this is part 2, where we're going to take a look at these Microsoft, where we've got them embedded in those Microsoft tools. There are other types of Copilot. So there's a dynamic Copilot. There's a fabric Copilot that's really all about analytics. There's a security Copilot. If you were with us last month, you heard us tell the history of Copilot that actually started with this GitHub Copilot that was support for developing better code. That's where the whole Copilot array of products started, was with that actual GitHub, and there's actually a Power Platform Copilot. So there's actually several different types of Copilot, and they function a little bit differently, but still that same AI supported experience, just some with a little bit more of an emphasis than others. But where we're going to spend our time today is in these embedded tools. And we want to talk about productivity. And we want to talk about how Microsoft Copilot can help improve our productivity. Microsoft actually did some of the work for us. Thank you very much. And they did a survey of Copilot users talking about what kind of productivity gains have you seen from using Microsoft? And the actual question is here for you. It's actually that they asked them to indicate their level of agreement with the following statements about using Copilot. And to what extent do you agree with the statements for your experience using Copilot in Word or Microsoft or Outlook? And I'm gonna leave this up here for a minute, but there's a couple things that stood out to me as I was looking over this data that I thought was really important and really interesting. So obviously in productivity and speed, the thing that stands out is that 85% of the respondents says it helps me get to the first draft faster. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's me. Because the way I use AI is helping me just getting started. It helps me to get whatever I'm working on started. So I really felt like, yes, I'm on board with this. 75% said that it helps save time by finding whatever I need in my files. And I thought, I haven't tried that yet. That's something I get to go try out new, is that it actually helps you find things in your files. 72% said that it helps generate ideas while they're writing. And I said, yes, that's me too, because sometimes if I get stuck or it just doesn't sound right, how many people write something and you think, okay, that is probably not what I needed it to say, or it just doesn't sound right. I found AI has been really helpful. Copilot's been really helpful for me in just giving me different ways to say things. And we've got some demonstrations of that coming up, some cool things that we're learning as we spend more time with this tool. 71% said it helps save time on mundane tasks. And don't we love it when we save time on mundane tasks? And then 70% just basically said it makes me more productive. So there's some really interesting things that we've learned with Copilot and also being able to really increase that productivity. So we wanted to set the stage today to really talk about how we're seeing opportunities to use Copilot. I will caveat, this is not the only way. The things we're going to show you today, it's not the only way to use it. These are just a few examples of the way that we've tried things out over the last month. And it's been interesting because Jamie and I have access to Pro and Aaron doesn't right now. And so we're really being able not only to test it, but then say, okay, but what does it look like over here? And so we've got a good back and forth in our test environment that we've been doing to really dig into Copilot Pro. So I am actually going to stop sharing and we are going to get into those integrations and I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to start going through some examples.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a perfect segue. So one thing about what we're doing here today, we're covering a suite of productivity tools, right? We're not going to hit all of them because of the time in which we are constrained, but we're hitting a suite of productivity tools. So you'll see us passing off to one another to do a relay through this session. And we're just giving you some basic ideas, as Sarah said, so there's a lot more to do. Copilot is very, very robust, and it's no different than any of the other systems that we're seeing being used on the landscape right now, and that they are consistently evolving. I will preface this with saying that when we're using the Copilot Pro version, it interacts with the documents that you have stored online. So by that, I mean documentation that's stored in OneDrive or that is in your email system. So if I'm working with documents locally on my computer and I have Word running locally, natively on my machine, then I'm not using Copilot to do some of the more robust things that I want to do. If I want to do that, then I'm going to move over and run it in Bing, probably to be able to do more of those kinds of things. And you can back up and look at the recording from the previous month where Sarah and Pari went over that information that is there embedded for you. But we're going to look at Microsoft Word and just a few things that you can do with it. And I came at this thinking about faculty, but I know we've got a lot of staff folks in here. I saw some of our TBR folks coming in. So we're glad that you're all here. Just know that you can take the activities that we're doing here today and just modify them for your use case and just play around with it just like we do with the other AI system. Experimentation is the word of the day, and that is just trying things out to see how it works for you. So we're going to start out first with looking at Microsoft Word and Copilot integration. And some of the things that we've been playing with and using Word and Copilot is content drafting. And so we're thinking about this from a productivity standpoint. So not necessarily thinking about generating course content, but you could. You can do that in here as well. It's very easy to do. But we're thinking about classroom management kinds of things, your job side of what you do kinds of things. And so we're actually going to look in just a moment and have Copilot help us draft a conference proposal for the 2024 ISTE conference. So that's something that we constantly talk about on our side, and we're not actively teaching in the classroom. We teach with you guys, but we're not student facing. But this is something that all of us look to do, right? So we all look to do those conference presentations, and many times we're sitting around trying to brainstorming. What are we thinking? What are we going to do? We get the topic strands from the websites, and we start to want to play with that content and do some brainstorming. So we'll look at that in just a moment. Another way that you can use Copilot in Microsoft Word integration is style and tone adjustments. So you can highlight some text and have it and click a menu, and it'll say, do you want this written more formally, more informally, more casual, more academic, more professional? So you've got some different tones that you can select from. That can be available to your students too, right? So as we're doing these things, think about these tools being embedded within the systems that students are using. One thing that we are mentioning to our faculty now to bear in mind is that AI is so ubiquitous within the different systems that we're using that students are having to actively ignore it. So if you're thinking about how do I integrate it in the classroom, think about that it's embedded within Microsoft, it's embedded within Google, it's embedded within all these other systems that we're using. So just know that it's in front of students like it is us. So working with style and tone adjustments. Some of the other things that I listed here, giving feedback to students within documentation is a good thing to do. You can run student papers through and attach relevant comments or annotate. Remember to remove any PII that is in that documentation prior to running it through Copilot. Share the annotated document with your students for revisions. So we're going to go back over to Word, and I'm going to pop up a Word screen, and I'm going to run that PowerPoint not full screen, so I hope that doesn't drive you nuts, simply because we are jumping from application to application, and it's much easier for me to be able to see my screens to do that. So one thing I want to show you right off the bat. So I'm running Copilot Pro, so I'm going to see this prompt on a blank page once I open up a blank document within Word. And so I can hit Alt-I on my keyboard to start Copilot, but I have a habit already built of hitting the Copilot icon up on the home ribbon. You can do that either way. And so I'm gonna pop that open. And so what I'm going to see is Copilot over on the right, and it's going to say, okay, here's some things you can try. Here's some things that you can do. Ask a question. So it's just giving me a basic idea at this point to start a chat with Copilot. So I mentioned that we're going to have it help us draft a conference proposal, and I have created a prompt previously so that I'm not typing here. And so I'm going to go down here into this bottom box where it says ask me anything, and I'm going to prompt this Copilot to create a 350 word conference proposal draft for the 2024 ISTE conference. My topic is project-based learning and a college world history course. So pretty standard, pretty generic prompt. And so let's just run that through and let's see what it comes back and tells us. So I've given it some criteria. I said, give me 350 words. Remember that when we're using these AI systems, you want to treat this as though this is your draft, right? So we're going to take what's out of here and we're going to then put that into our document, and we're going to start to draft working on that document. So it's generating content for me now. And it's also giving me some other prompts down here that I can start to use just to get the ideas rolling. I'm going to copy out this information and I'm going to move this over to my document and paste it in. And so it's giving me the information that I pulled out from the Copilot through that prompt. So then what I can start doing is, once I read through this, so it's talking about project-based learning. It's getting into some session description. Now, I could have given it more specific content from that the request for proposals, and it will get more specific with me in my feedback. But what I can then do is I can start to highlight information. And so I've got this little Copilot icon popping up right here, and it's going to say rewrite with Copilot. And so I'm going to then look at what it's going to start generating for me. And so it's going to give me some content that I can go with. Now, one of the things that I like a lot about Copilot is it gives you 3 versions of rewrites. And so I see right here, it's giving me rewrite with Copilot 1 of 3. So I can look through this and see what I think. I can read through or scroll through and look at these others, and then just see which one that I really like. And maybe I like part of what's in one, but I don't want to overwrite what I have here. So I could just do insert below, and then I can start to edit by meshing the 2 parts together that I really like. So I'm having it to draft an initial draft. I'm then asking it to give me some ideas on rewriting. And so this is one very powerful way that I can use Copilot within my document. So it's going to help me with initial draft generation of a document. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so we've looked at content drafting. Let's take just a quick look while we're sitting there.
Were a couple of questions.
Do I hear someone talking?
It sounds like we've got a question for you.
Okay.
Yes, one of them, the Copilot icon only shows up when you use Copilot's Pro, yes?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that,
Yeah.
Sarah.
Yes. So the version that that Jamie is demonstrating, that icon only shows up when you have Copilot Pro. Now, if you don't have Copilot Pro, you can still use, like I will split screen and use the in-browser Copilot. It will give you similar results. It's just not as easy, as convenient as having it pop up in Pro. But this is what we're demonstrating today, is what does it look like in Pro. You can get the same support using the in-browser as well.
And the other question was, so you highlighted a section and used run Copilots there. Does Copilot, can Copilot read what's in Word directly? So like if I had a 200-page Word document and I told it in the side to summarize this document for me, could it do that, or do I have to highlight the whole thing and then click summarize?
I'm trying to remember. So in the browser version of Copilot, in Copilot Pro, I think you can upload a file. In the browser version, you might have to do screenshots, but you could do something similar. You'll have to work it a little bit differently, but what you're seeing today is what is in Pro. And I'm also going to caveat, I meant to say this earlier, while we're looking at Pro, and while we may not have it on our campuses, my personal Microsoft 365 for my personal account, Pro just showed up for me because I pay for it, because I pay for my Microsoft account. So while it may not be on my work account, it's on my personal account, which may mean it's on students' personal accounts, or it may be on your personal account if you have one. So what you're seeing is all what shows up with Microsoft Pro. Words and
to be clear, so in the Pro version, Copilot can read what's in the Word document?
I believe so.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah. So over here, if I'm looking down here at the very bottom of the screen where you'll see my pointer, see it says, ask me anything about this document. So you're going to be able to embed your questions right into there. And Erin's going to demonstrate a document for you in a moment. That's a very large document with a lot of data that Pari actually did some questioning on. So you'll see how that kind of works. But yes, it will go through and you can do some analysis of your document. The other thing that's pretty neat under here that you can do is once you have highlighted, now this may not pertain to this content, so just bear in mind, but I just want to show you this option that you have. So once you have information on a screen in front of you and you click this Copilot, you're going to see visualize as a table. And so one of the things that I do oftentimes is I'm working with content in a Word file. And I'm thinking, okay, that information would look better in a table. So then what I wind up doing is I'm having to then create a table, determine the numbers of columns and rows, and then copy and paste that information into that table. So what Copilot will do is it allows you, using this function of visualizing a table, so it takes whatever information I've highlighted and it starts to put it into table format. And so this is just a huge time saver that you can use when you're working in your Word documents. So it's doing it. So once it gets the table built, and if that works for me, then I can just say keep it. And now I have the table within my document and I can go ahead and edit that table. So that is just another functionality of Copilot within Microsoft Word that's very handy and cuts down on a lot of time that it would take for copying and pasting within documents. So that's just a couple of ways, and I'm going to hand it off to Erin and let her take over for a moment because she's going to show you a more in-depth document and some analysis you can do within Copilot.
Yeah, and actually, Jamie, probably for ease of transition, if you want to go ahead and just bring your computer back up and just walk through the PowerPoint.
Okay.
We're on the slide following the Word demonstration. And while you're doing that, I did put in a couple of notes while you were doing the Copilot demonstration with the conference proposal. I pulled open a browser instance of Copilot, put the exact same prompt, and it gave me a very similar structure and response. Just the gap there is that then if I wanted to then make those edits, I have to go and paste that into a Word document, and then I'm free from the assistance of the AI. So that's one of the biggest benefits of the integration here with Word is that you're working in one place. So as we mentioned earlier, Pari did some analyses of the feedback of significant number of responses for a end of course survey. So here you can see there were over 71,000 students who responded. With 6,400 responses. And so using Copilot integration with Word, having all of that qualitative feedback and synthesizing and analyzing that within one application rather than having to do that in, let's say, a data analysis software. So if you could go to the next slide here, you can see the first screen of the length of the document. So to do this analysis, then document is pulled into Word, and then you're driving with the prompts with the menu that Jamie had described earlier that's available on the ribbon. So looking at this one's over 200 pages long of student responses. And so the prompt then on the right-hand side is for there to be an analysis of looking for themes, looking for areas of that then would be our takeaway from this data analysis of this survey. And so if you can go to the next slide here, you can see that, and I have looked at other videos. Again, I don't have access to Pro right now, so I've been doing my own independent research with YouTube, that you might run into some issues where it's not responding right away, but keep on persisting and have it continue on. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, in that dialog box on the right-hand side are the responses coming back from AI. So there's your main themes, your areas where the concepts that students are giving you feedback on are clustered together. So then you can make meaning of all of those statements, the 200 plus pages of statements. So the next slide here then are our results that we can then make actionable. So the feedback here is then clustered into actionable statements, synthesizing all of that information so that we can then do what we need to do to make that course better. So great use of a tool here with assistance of AI. I can say from doing my dissertation with qualitative feedback, that would have been very helpful, even though I didn't have that many respondents. But wanted to make sure that you had that as a very good example. You can use that on your course end of course survey results, or if you're doing other qualitative data. So want to pass it back to Jamie, and she's going to look at some of the features with the integration with PowerPoint.
Thank you, Erin. That was just an amazing analysis within Word that we did some work about a year and a half ago, and we had a lot of qualitative data, and I had nightmares back to my dissertation, and just, oh my goodness. And so I had to use a tool that was available out online and do a lot of color coding. And it just took an inordinate amount of time to get through that data. So having a tool like this to be able to do analysis on quite a lot of information is really, really a time saver. It's huge. And so, okay, so we're going to move on to PowerPoint. So there's some great things you can do with PowerPoint and Copilot. So we're going to look at creating a PowerPoint presentation with a Word document, which is one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing. And then we're going to look at creating a presentation from a prompt and talk about summarizing content in a presentation using Copilot. So additional ideas you could do in your course is input your lecture outline in PowerPoint and to command it to create a slide deck. And the great thing is it inserts images for you based on words embedded in your presentation. And so I don't know about you, but we do quite a lot of PowerPoint presentations and all of the different talks that we do. And the images get old and tired when you see the same things in PowerPoint over and over and over. So you have to go out and look in the database that's on Microsoft and other places, and that takes time. So it's really a handy plus when this AI tool can go out and capture images and bring them in for you. So I'm going to show you some examples of that. So let's take a look at it. So I'm going to pop open PowerPoint. Oh, I've got PowerPoint open. So let me do a file and a new blank slide presentation. So I'm going to open up a Word file that actually, no, let me do this a little differently. I'm going to jump over to OneDrive. And so I've got this document that lives on OneDrive that I put up there. And this document, let me go ahead and open it so you can take a look at it. So it's looking at Word Online right now. So this is back to my little ISTE proposal that we created earlier. And so on this, when I ran it the first time, I did a little bit differently. So it gave me a little bulleted list, and I said, okay, take this and put it into a table. So it embedded that for me. And so this document lives in my OneDrive. And I want to show you, I left the table and the bulleted list because I want to show you what happens when you throw a table into a slide. Now, again, this is my rough draft, right? So you're going to see that, and I'm going to make a decision once I get this into PowerPoint, which way that I want to use this information in my slide presentation. So I'm just going to close this out, because what I want to do is on OneDrive, I want to click the 3 ellipses that sits beside the document that I want to use to feed the presentation to bring into PowerPoint. And I'm going to get this link. Okay, now once I get this link, then I'm going to go back to PowerPoint, and I'm going to click Copilot up on my ribbon. So I'm on the home ribbon. And so I'm going to click Copilot, and here it comes. So what I've got here is I've got create a presentation about. So I can click that, give it a topic. It's going to crank out my presentation. Create a presentation from a file, or add a slide about. So what I'm going to do first is do this, create a presentation from a file. And so what it does is it says create presentation from file. I'm going to paste the link that I copied from OneDrive, and I'm going to click send, and it's going to take off and start doing the presentation. So one thing I want to let you know, and teammates, keep me honest on this. There's a setting in Word that actually I see it in front of me. It's in all the Microsoft applications you're using. If you look up at my pointer that's on that home ribbon, it says sensitivity. And so if you click that on your application, I'm not going to click it right now because it's generating this presentation. I don't want to do anything to subvert what's going on. But if you click that, you can set it to confidential. You can set it to within your organization. You're setting levels of permissions that people can see and access. So what has happened to me on a couple times in doing this process of coming from Word to PowerPoint is it said, hey, I can't do it because sensitivity tag is not added. So what you do is you click on, when you get your Word file generated in Word, you can click that sensitivity and set it to general. Set that to general. So it's the same idea as if you share a link with someone on Google or whatever, and you say anyone with the link can view it. It's that very same philosophy, but it's embedded within Microsoft. So remember, if it says to you, I can't generate this because of the sensitivity label, you just need to go back and set sensitivity to general. Okay, so it's pulled in the Word file, and it's gone through and it's created the presentation for me. So it's going, and it's going right through that content. And here's the information. And it's formatted for me and ready to go. And so I mentioned earlier that I had this sitting there for a couple of reasons why, because you'll see that it gives me the examples of each on various slides. So what I could ultimately do is I could say, okay, I want to go with the examples on the slides, and I could link to student examples that I have on my end. So I might embed those in OneDrive and link them up here where they could be clicked on. I could load this up into Google Drive and those documents and put the links in and make it interactive. But let's say that I wanted to just say, no, I'm not going to use the examples here. So then all I could do is just delete those 3 slides and go with this table. Now, the table looks a little bit weird to me because it's showing this highlighted information, and I want it reformatted. So all I'm going to do is click on Designer up here in the top ribbon, and then I can choose a different format for my table. Whatever I want to do, it gives me different options, what looks better, and then I can go ahead and then add in the links to different websites or different features that students are giving me. So that's one example of generating a presentation from a Word file. Now, one thing I also want to show you is this tool, when you generate PowerPoints, it's going to create notes in here for you. And you'll see that depending on what topic that you're using and what it's going to generate in your content. So pay attention because it's going to give you some notes down there. And I found those to be very useful for the most part. So that is an example of generating from a Word file. So remember, sensitivity set to general, your Word file must be in OneDrive and you're rolling. Okay, so then let's do another one. So let's do a blank.
Just a second. William, did you have a question? I see your hands up. Is that from before or is that a new question?
This is a new question.
Okay.
So when generating a PowerPoint from a Word document or even just generating a PowerPoint from scratch, can you instruct Copilot to create images that go along with different slides as well?
You can. Hold on a second. Let me do the second one and let's see what you think about this.
All right.
Okay, so I've got two prompts, and one of them is create a presentation for my college statistics course welcoming students to a new semester. And I've got another one that says create a presentation for my college English course on AI ethics. So let's play with this AI ethics one. Either one of these would be great. If you do the college, the welcome, it's going to show college students in a course, all smiling and happy and ready to go. So it's going to embed in images. But because we talk about AI quite a lot and we're dealing with AI, I'm going to use the prompt of create a presentation that for my college English course on AI ethics. So I'm going to do create a presentation about, so I'm just going to I could just paste that in and I'm going to send it off. And let's see what it comes back with for us. Works pretty quickly. Now you could also generate your presentation and other AI systems, whether you're using Claude or ChatGPT, and do the same thing. You're just saving that that information out to a Word file and you link it up, or you can bring it and paste it in. So this is the AI ethics presentation that it just created for me. I'm going to notice that there are notes down here for me. And so I'm just going to click through and show you that it's making content relevant images. It's pulling those in. It's giving me great content that I can then build on and edit. So I'm just going to click through slowly and you'll see the notes change based on the slide. Privacy concerns. Bias and fairness. So it's looking pretty good so far. It's hitting some good topics, transparency and accountability. Regulatory, so it's talking about opt-out, opt-in here. Interesting. And then conclusion. So that is me generating a presentation from within a prompt. And then once I get that presentation built, then I can further interact with Copilot about this presentation and I can change topics, or I can change images. I can ask for more text on a particular area. I can ask for more, it's specifically like detail if you need that. Then I can go up here, I can do summarize this presentation, organize this presentation. So there's further steps that you can go through with it. So that's just the example of generating a presentation using a Word file that I already have, or prompting it from scratch once I get into PowerPoint. I could simply create a presentation on and give it a topic. And it just depends on how much detail that I want to give, or how much iterating that I want to do with my prompt, or editing of that initial slideshow. But I love the way that it gets fresh graphics, because that's what takes time to find the relevant graphics. And I will tell you, every single presentation that I've built so far, I'm very happy with the graphics that it's brought in. And then I don't have to worry about copyright, because it's pulling from sources that Microsoft has already vetted for copyright for me to be able to use in that way. So very, very strong there on creating PowerPoints. So make sure that you play with this and get your students to use it. Again, you could go right in. If I wanted to do, let me just show you super quick and then we'll move on. If I wanted to then copy and paste my content right in here, if I had some content from, let's say, an email that I had been working on, or I'd gone back and forth with my team and I need a presentation based on some information out of an email, I can copy and paste that content in here and it will build on that as well. So anything, you can copy paste, generate new, or have it work with another piece of software to generate a PowerPoint show. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. I'm going to hand it off to Sarah, and she's going to talk. Chuck, did you have a question?
I do. I just put it in the chat. Do you know if the images in PowerPoint create alt tags for ADA accessibility?
Ooh,
Oh, I
that's
see
a
Sarah.
great question.
Sarah
That's a great
answered.
Oh no,
question.
Chuck, I was answering Angie's question about copy and paste from a chapter in a textbook. You might be able to do that. You'd probably be better off taking that content that you wanted and saving it as a OneDrive document so that you could upload just that chapter or whatever it was to create the PowerPoint versus trying to do a text from a chapter, like if it's online, might be too much because it's going to read the in totality versus maybe what you want. So you might take that out as you're going, if that's what you want to give it. Listen, we will always tell you, give it a shot, try it, see what happens. We have, none of us in all the things we have tried have ever broken AI. So that gives me full confidence that we can try all the things. So I would say your best bet though is to take it out if it's an online like OER resource or comes from the chapter. I would take that content and save it into like a Word document on OneDrive to put into PowerPoint.
I have queried it to tell me about accessibility tagging. I know Pari talked about that in the initial, in the talk last month. So I will let you know it's still thinking. So keep me honest and bring me back to that question before we wrap it up. So I'll let you know what I find out on tagging for accessibility. And I'm going to hand it over to Sarah and let her talk about Teams integration.
All right, so I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes look. So we are using Teams today. The caveat to using Copilot in Teams is that Copilot doesn't just sit in our meetings and listen to us for entertainment. You have to record the meeting with the transcript for Copilot to work. So know that if you're just talking with your coworker or you're just having a conversation, that Copilot is not listening to everything. So you have to actually record. But when you're recording, Copilot gives you some really cool support. So for example, in this meeting, in about 5 minutes, it's going to give me a little notification at the top that says you have 10 minutes in this meeting. Would you like me to summarize the meeting notes and create a task list? So it does that for me. This is what I want to show you is what the behind the scenes looks like when you're using AI. So this example is, and I see a couple of our Gen Ed, our faculty that are partnering with us for the development of our CBE Gen Eds. So this is the backside of our last training that happened 2 weeks ago. And at the top, there's this recap button. So what's really interesting about this and what we find really helpful, these are my AI notes. So at the end of that meeting, at 10 minutes to go, it said, do you want me to generate meeting notes and follow-up tasks? This is the meeting notes that actually got generated and the follow-up tasks. What I found really helpful was not only did it generate meeting notes, but it actually tags who said what. So it says, I talked about the course homepage and pointed out a few things. I mentioned that there's a screencast video embedded in D2L training. Jamie talked about validating competency statements and the importance of formulating and nurturing relationships with the industry. What we found is that these meeting notes are actually fairly accurate. Sometimes there's some little funny things that happen and they don't get all the words right. So I would never say take these verbatim. We discovered in a meeting the other day that it doesn't always take notes correctly. So you want to look through these before you use them, but you can copy these, the follow-up tasks. And I did no formatting with this. This is the way it comes out of Copilot. It'll tell you it gives us the D2L access. Make sure you're sending an email invitation. This was to me. I was supposed to send somebody an email invitation. I did that, by the way. Make sure you're using OER resources, validating competency. So it does a pretty good job. What we also appreciate is it actually can tell you, so you have your recording, but it tells you can scroll through. So if we want to see where somebody's talking or somebody's covering something, you can look at it this way. It also gives topics. So if we were talking about course structure, it would pop right over here to where we were talking about course structure and assessment. If we were talking about course scheduling, we could pop right over here and it would take you to that part of the recording. It also will break it down into chapters. So if there's something specific you're looking for, it provides that level of detail for you so that you can access this. Scott, you're saying you don't understand the meeting notes. Is it only available in the pro version? Yes. So the meeting notes have to be done by, this was something that we tested. Aaron helped us test this. You have to have the pro to get these meeting notes in Teams. However, if you have one person, like if I wanted to generate meeting notes for today, I can generate those meeting notes and I can give them to everyone. So you have to have somebody that has access to Pro. What we also appreciate is if there's @mentions, if somebody tagged me in a message in the chat, it would come up here. We've got the transcript for the recording here. There's also attendance. So this is just a little behind the scenes peek. Now you can use AI to help summarize chat in a meeting. It's not as helpful as you would think. Or maybe I haven't used it correctly because it hasn't been as helpful as I wanted it to be. But there is a function where you can use AI, use Copilot to do that. So this is just a little quick behind the scenes of some of the things that we have tried with Copilot in Teams.
And I would just like to tag on with Sarah a little bit about the chat functionality. It seems to be one of those spots that's evolving. But one of the ways that we saw that's useful is you have the Copilot screen on the right that you can interact with, like if you're telling it to summarize the chat, to pull out the, give you a bulleted list about the chat. It can do that. One of the suggestions was you could have it summarize the chat or list a bulleted item and create an FAQ. To go back about the meeting. And so there's some different things that you can do with chat analysis. We've got some great videos, little short 1.5-minute videos that Microsoft has produced on each one of these pieces. And we'll show you at the end of the meeting how to get to that content. But you can do some analysis, but it just does not seem to be as developed as it is on the meeting side, on the video piece yet, but they're working on it. So we'll see where that goes.
Yes. And funny story, Copilot just asked me if it wanted to generate meeting notes for this meeting. So I will give you a real-time example and put those in the chat for you after it generates. It's generating now. So there we go.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So it's telling me 10 minutes left, open Copilot. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. Check back to your question about accessibility. It does not automatically tag your images. All you need to do is just right click and you're going to do view alt text. That's going to happen over here. And then all you need to do is either approve it, which is going to tag it, or you need to mark it as decorative. So when a screen reader hits it, it'll say image is not important to your users. So it's not automatically tagging those, but you can easily do that with the right click and viewing your alt text. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. It looks like it did generate the text. You just have to make a decision if it's an alt text, or did you type that? A person walking?
No, it generated that for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just
So
have to
I
make
just
the
said
decision.
generate it, and it said person walking in the hallway, description automatically generated. And I'm just going to hit approve alt text. And so then that will work.
Great. That'll save some time too.
Okay. All right. Let me get back out of this real quick and jump back to here. Okay, a little bit about email integration. And so I'm going to pop open anything that can help me with email. You know, I'm all about it, right? So a couple of fun things that you can do with students. You can actually have Copilot to generate a draft email for you. So I can draft with Copilot, or I can do coaching with Copilot. So if I'm drafting with Copilot, then what it's going to say, what do you want your email to say? I'm going to say email let's do this with email my students with assignment directions. And I'm not going to get real in detail with it, but you get the idea. So it's going to get as specific as I ask it to do. Now I'm going to look at this adjust right here because this is really interesting. So however I want this tone to be set for my email, I can do casual, formal, direct, a poem. You can write that for your students if you feel like you need a break and have to have some humor. There you go. I want it to be a short, medium, or long email. So you've got some options there to help you with setting the tone for your message. So if I'm hitting generate, then it's going to start generating the email for me and give me something to start with. Okay, so here we go. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to reach out and share some important assignment directions with you. Please make sure you read the instructions carefully and feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns. I'm always here to support you through your learning journey. Best of luck with the assignment. There you go. It's got my name on it. And so I can keep it, discard it, regenerate, or change the tone on it here. Now, I also want to show you something fun with the tone. So I've got an email over here that I wrote that's for students, and it's just not really nice. It's something that I would try not to write, but I want to show you how this tone works or how the coaching works. So it says, students, please turn in your work on time. If not, points will be deducted each day it is late. The deadline is Thursday, and there will be no exceptions to this date. I have wanted to write this email and send it many times, I'll tell you. And so it's one of those you think, well, maybe it's a little too harsh. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do coaching by Copilot. And what it's going to start doing, instead of just me hitting that tone and changing it, it starts giving you feedback based on what you have in there. So it says, hey, your message could be more polite. Your email sounds harsh and demanding, which might discourage students from submitting their work on time. Instead of please turn in your work on time, the email could say, I appreciate your efforts to submit your work on time, or it is important to meet the deadline for your work. So I can have it regenerate. So that's tone. Let's reader sentiment. The email does not acknowledge the possible challenges or difficulties with the students might face in completing their work. So it's giving me things to think about from the empathy standpoint. The email could show some empathy and understanding by adding, I know this is a challenging assignment. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. All right, let's look at clarity. The email does not specify the time or the format of the submission, which might cause confusion and misunderstanding. I love this piece because sometimes in my email, I'm not thinking about it from that perspective, and something's ambiguous and it's not translating to me as the writer of the message, but the coach will pick that up for me and start giving me feedback. So it says, you might want to include the deadline is Thursday at 11:59 p.m. or please upload your work on the online platform as a PDF file. So being more specific is there. So again, that is coaching by Copilot. It is very, very handy to use. And so I can start a draft and then I can have it coach me on the different pieces of it. So that's really great. Now, the last thing that I want to show you on here is about searching email from 365. Now, I'm going to jump back over to my OneDrive account. And I'll see over here on the left that I've got Copilot icon sitting there. And this is a really powerful feature I think all of us can use, regardless of whether we're student facing or not. So what I'm going to have it do, so Sarah and I worked on a project last summer. It was called our Ambassador Project. And we've got tons of emails, tons of documents, and I'm just going to have it look for Sarah's conversations or interactions with me through documents and emails. So it's going to scan my OneDrive files and start to give me feedback. So I'm going to put in Sarah's name and the Ambassador Project. And let's see what this generates for us. So it's going to take off and start generating for us. And this is one of those topics when you start talking about Copilot and 365, we could do 6 more sessions on this, honestly. It's so robust. But again, we've got the resources for you out there. And if you get in here and start playing, then we can help you further if you have questions. So it's coming up and saying, okay, Sarah co-authored a presentation called. So there's that presentation. And then it's got me listed there. And so it gives me these little footnotes attached. And if I roll my pointer on it, right there is the presentation. I can click and it will open up that document for me. So here is another one. Sarah contributed to the orientation document. This one's also a PowerPoint. Down here, she was involved in an email regarding the Ambassador Project course redesign, and there is the footnote for that. So if I click that footnote, it's going to take me directly to that email. So you'll see in OneDrive, if I just give it a basic prompt, then it's going to start scanning all of the files, the emails, everything out there that has a reference to that content and bring it back to you and let you then start to cruise through there and look at those little footnotes and see if those are the ones that you want. So that's a very powerful feature that's available to you as far as email and documentation through OneDrive and Copilot. So
I think that just saved me hours worth of work.
It's pretty amazing. So play around with that. So you can go back through your email. We all know you can search your email messages, but I find that can be overwhelming because my email box is so huge. But getting into that and looking at it just in that window, I find is more helpful. So I can see more content. When I'm searching for messages, it's just giving me the subject line, right? And maybe I don't know, but that functionality through Copilot and 365 tends to give you more detail about what you're looking at, where I'm not just clicking on various email messages and looking through.
Awesome. Well, I know we're getting close to time, and I think we're into questions, and William has his hand up.
So more on the email functionality. I know for myself, one issue is just the sheer number of emails in my inbox that need to be sorted into different labels. Can you have Copilots automatically sort your messages into different labels?
You can. That's having Copilot work with you and setting up rules for your inbox. And yes, it will be able to do that for you. I find that sometimes it can be a little daunting to build those rules for your inbox, but Copilot will walk you through that process. And that is involved on this website. I'm going to take a look at this. So this is the Bridging Minds and Machines website that we build and use for you guys and continually add to. And that's where we collect these recordings that we have for you here on our Tech Talk Tuesdays. So I'm going to scroll really quickly down here and just remind you that this is the first session that happened last month on Copilot. So the new one that we're working on will be embedded just below that. So make sure that you take a look at that. So Chuck, I do see that Pari did talk about providing alternative text. She did it in Microsoft Word. So that's a little different than what we did today. I also want to remind you that we are collecting your uses of AI within your work, whether you're in a classroom or you're in an administrative role. We want to collect those and share those out. We are working at TBR on a platform to be able to share those out so that our folks across the system can go in and see how your colleagues are using these AI tools within their practice. And so be sure and give us that information if you have found some of these tools useful. And even if you find them not useful, that's important to know as well. So be sure to share that information with us. I want to bring you into this resources area and specifically come down, because this is a little new tab that we've added for video tutorials. And so we've got some tutorials here that build on what we've talked about today. There is a list right here that says official Microsoft Copilot tips playlist. And those videos within that playlist are all about 1.5 minutes long. And they are very much in the format that we've done with you here today. So it just shows you quick tips on doing very specific things in the entire suite of Microsoft. We didn't touch on Excel simply because of the time constraint, but you'll find some information embedded there about Excel and how you can use Copilot along with that. There's also a Copilot app for your phone. So this video is going to walk you through that process. And then we're adding ChatGPT. So we're adding more video tutorials. We want to vet those and make sure that they are helpful to what you're doing and not too terribly long. You'll notice that I've added timestamps to each one of these videos that are posted so that you know what you're getting into. There's one thing that drives me crazy, that's jumping into a video and it's 1.5 hours long and I don't have 1.5 hours to give to it. So that in a nutshell is learning the resource site for you. So make sure that you visit that resource site and continue your learning there. We are going to continue our sessions. I'm going to pass it back over to Sarah so she can close us out for today. We are a little bit over.
We're a little bit over, and I put the links to the resource site and to registration for next month's Tech Talk in the chat. And we want to say thank you again for taking time with us today. It is one of the things that brightens our month when we get to come hang out with you and talk tech on Tech Talk Tuesday. So thank you so much. We hope you have an amazing rest of your week and hope to see you back here in May.
Well done. Thank you.